democracy on poor Japan. We victimized them by forcing them to have a democratic government, but the Japanese then took it and made it work not exactly like a French democracy, or they've made it work. They've become a great country.
And they sold their culture because it was virtual to all the kids of the world through manga and animation. And they had a cultural revenge because they could not have an army, but they had an army inside. And all the kids who got in manga, they learned Japanese, they learned about the Taoists.
My daughter's one of them.
So, somewhere, they made the Pacific War that they won later on.
Well, you know, there are two kinds of weapons of mass destruction. I'm still trying to decide whether, we actually haven't used the atomic weapon in a long time, but Coca-Cola now, that has destroyed culturally. It wiped out Guaraná in Brazil. That was an evil, evil act. Guaraná is the national soft drink of Brazil, and Coca-Cola came in and said, if you're going to have Coca-Cola on tap, you have to use our brand of Guaraná, and it was a terrible brand. And they drove all the other Guaraná manufacturers out of business, except one feeble survivor. And you know, it's a petty thing, soft drink, but it just pissed me off.
We had a mayor in New York, Michael Bloomberg, who was really strong on this stuff, trying to eliminate the amount of soft drinks that people could be sold to shove down their throats. But in terms of that, worse than that was NAFTA, the free trade agreement between America and Mexico, which destroyed the ability of Mexican small farmers to make a living growing corn. It's very serious. That's one of the reasons you have all these the Mexican illegal immigrants, because they couldn't make the American industrial farms could grow corn much cheaper than the Mexican farmers, and kind of destroyed the small farm industry in Mexico.
Everything has unintended consequences.
Okay,
that's the law.
You have a very good act, both of you, and you bounce back and forth, but
I'm sorry, I didn't see him over there.
I'm enjoying the show so much. You raise a very good point. I'm very interested in cultural weapons of mass destruction, isn't it? Is actually a fascinating area. Coca-Cola culture, certainly. The Western diet. I'm interested also in how Western forms of narrative, you know, the hero's journey and all that stuff, the 3-act structure, has become the world's dominant form of kind of storytelling narrative form, when there are other narrative forms out there, particularly in Japan, which seem very strange to us, but have interesting potential and the same ability to develop a plot and a climax and exciting outcome that our form does. And I mean, not all forms of cultural mass destruction necessarily come from the United States. Its sport doesn't export very well, whereas soccer does export very well. It's one of the great British forms of cultural mass destruction. Organised sport, in a sense, is one of Britain's great contributions to kind of dominating world culture. But I think what we're finding is there's a light flashing on the screen here. I think what we're finding is that mass destruction is a more subtle and nuanced thing than just piles of skulls on the street corners. That our lives are hugely important to us, but so is our culture, so are our beliefs, so is our economic well-being, so is our moral sense of being a person in a group and a culture, and having an identity. And things that threaten these, in a sense, are more threatening because they come more often and are more persistent than the looming of the great mushroom cloud or the cloud of toxic gas over all of us. So I think we look at the big stuff and it scares us, but the small stuff, those little tiny bits that chip away at ourselves and our cultures and our individuality every day, they're the ones we kind of really need to be scared of.
I can't speak for anyone else, but I'd like us to end with that.
Yes, I think it's a good ending. I'm sorry if we don't find for you a new way to mass destroy humanity. We moved on a personal level, and if we were waiting for a new gimmick to destroy this whole world in one second, no, we didn't.
We failed then, huh?
Destroy the entire audience with